Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Jack here with my weekly Magic videos. This week we are going to be trying something very different. We're going to be playing a deck that I call Mono Green Monument. It would probably also be affectionately known as Mono Green Stompy, which tends to find its way into formats from time to time. So the way that I came across this deck was I came across a list on MTG Goldfish that was a 5-0 list, and the list was kind of built around Rhonas' Monument, and essentially, I wouldn't say it is quite like a Pummeler deck, but it kind of just attacks for a bunch of damage out of nowhere. So if you're not familiar with Rhonas' Monument, which hasn't seen really any play to date, it is a 3-mana legendary artifact that makes all of your green creature spells, it's important, cost 1 less to cast, and when you cast a creature spell, regardless of whether it's a green spell or not, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. So the deck that I saw played a bunch of cheap green creatures, and basically you were playing with monuments, cost reduction, like maybe 3 or 4 creatures in one turn, and then swinging for anywhere from 10 to 20 damage. It was a really cool deck, really cool concept. I did play around with it a little bit. Ultimately, I felt like I wasn't the right person to pilot that type of deck. It's just not something I'm familiar enough with. So instead, I kind of went back to the drawing board on the deck and elongated the curve with things like Bristling Hydras, Arborback Stompers to help with aggressive decks, Gear Hulks, Sky Sovereign, which was in the sideboard of the original deck, Carnage Tyrants, and Galtas, which were also in the original deck. Now, Galta also has a really interesting interaction with Rhonas' Monument, because Galta cares about the total power of creatures you control. So if you are able to have Monument in play and play, like 1 or 2 creatures before you play Galta, Galta effectively is a 12/12 for 2 green, because you're, boosting the other creatures that are on the battlefield and reducing its casting cost. Plus, it gets its casting cost reduced from Rhonas' Monument. So it's a cool interaction there. I don't really have much else to say about the main deck. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. You have Blossoming Defenses to give your creatures hexproof. That's kind of like your one way to protect creatures. You do have some creatures that protect themselves, like Bristling Hydra and Carnage Tyrant, but other than that, you're using Blossoming Defense to protect important creatures. We have 4 Branchwalker. It's kind of a staple now in green decks. Resilient Kenra, which, double, if you have a Monument out, effectively double buffs something, because it's already going to give it +2/+2 from Monument, and +2 from its own ability when you cast it. We have 2 Rhonas to, once again, I guess, give creatures trample, give them buffs. I mean, we're playing in green, so why not? Jade Light Ranger, once again, mainstay in green decks right now. And yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums up the main deck. In the side deck, we have 2 Prey Upon. These are kind of our only removal spells that we have, so therefore things, I guess, like the Scarab God or Hostage Taker or Glorybringer. You can use them on like your Galta or your Carnage Tyrant to take out your opponent's biggest creature. We have 2 Shaper's Sanctuary, which should line up well in the current format's form of removal. Not good against sweepers, obviously, but good against, Fatal Push, Vraska's Contempt, Abrade, things of that nature. Also works on when your opponent exerts a creature and targets your creature, triggers this. So that's pretty cool. And it also interacts somewhat well with Explore and being able to know what you're going to draw. So we also have 1 Heroic Intervention, which kind of acts as a pseudo Blossoming Defense. It also gives our permanents hexproof and indestructible, so we can use it to protect our monuments if we come across an opponent playing a Braid. Next we have 3 Thrashing Brontodons, which if you're playing green right now, I would definitely consider playing this card. It has a ton of versatility. I even considered putting it in the main deck, which may be correct, but you know, it's good against any kind of enchantment based removal deck. So, you know, like White Black Vampires uses all enchantments for their removal. It also is good against, you know, the token strategy decks with Anointed Procession and Hidden Stockpile. We have a 4th Arborback Stomper. Once again, this is coming in against red decks and things of that nature that are low to the ground. It gives us a balancing, you know, 5 life gain and a large body to block and attack through with. We have 2 Nissa for our control matchups, mid-range matchups. It's a good value card. Not only does it, you know, on a clean board just give you 5/5s that you can attack with every turn, but it also, its -3 is very important because it allows us to, you know, get back our higher value creatures that we may have lost in trades or that we may have milled with Explore earlier in the game. We have a 3rd copy of Carnage Tyrant in the board. Comes in obviously against control decks, very difficult for decks to deal with, and a lot of times you're casting it for, you know, 5 mana, and yeah, it's pretty good. Also a pretty good thing to put the Rhonas' Monument buffs on. You can, you know, Resilient Kenra, Carnage Tyrant, and it becomes an 11/11/10. So that's pretty cool. And then finally we have Aethersphere Harvester. This comes in a couple different scenarios. One of them is aggressive decks, acts as a form of life gain. It also could come in against decks that don't have any flyers, where the board state might be stalled out, and it gives you, you know, much like the Sky Sovereign does, a way to kind of break through an opponent's defenses. So that's pretty much the deck. We're going to take it through 5 different rounds of just 2-man queues. I explained in the first round why I decided to do that, but basically I think it will be a positive thing for the channel going forward to do that instead of playing out a league. As always, thank you for watching. Be sure to check out the gameplay videos, and if you have a deck suggestion, please do leave it in the comments so I don't have to think so damn hard about what deck to play in the coming week. Okay, so take care everyone. I hope you have a great week. Enjoy the videos, and I will see you next week.